Thanks for attending the Oracle Integration webinar. Thanks for joining our quarterly product update webcast. I'm Jan Kress, part of the Oracle Product Management team. In case you missed one of our webcast on-demand recordings are available at Oracle Video Hub, including presentation for download. For details, please see our customer newsletter. In today's presentation, Neil Kuminski will update us on the latest Oracle integration features and Nathan Engstead on robotic process automation. Please welcome a special guest for the webcast, Suhas Ulias. Suhas, thanks for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, Jürgen. Apologies, I've lost my voice. It's been 4 days of a lot of talking and very loud talking. We are joining you live here from Oracle CloudWorld. I'm not in the same room as Jürgen. I'm rushing to meetings. I just want to take 5 minutes first to thank you all for making the time to join this webcast and for your support throughout the year and in the past. I just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on at CloudWorld and also Oracle Health Conference. This was the first time that CloudWorld and Oracle Health Conference came together in one place in Las Vegas, and it has been extremely busy. The talk of the CloudWorld is all about basically two key messages out there that OCI continues to grow, and all the services, especially integration, and the AI ML services that includes digital assistant is seeing tremendous sort of investment and tremendous support and growth. There's a lot of presentations and discussions around generative AI. But in specifically to what we've been working on, I just want to quickly share from this team, again, with the goal of making things complete, simple, intelligent, and observable. Nathan will be talking about robotic process automation. There is an increased emphasis at Oracle on healthcare, and our team is very much focused on that as well. So including, in addition to app adapters, we've made a lot of announcements in also focusing on healthcare adapters specific to the industry, on making it simple, rapid application builder that helps our customers, our partners, with the ability to very quickly point and click, ingest an open API spec and auto-generate an adapter, apply security policies to it, and release it and use it, of course. Pre-built accelerators continue to build on that, and the same with the process automation tools that's being released with several pre-built SaaS process apps from HCM, SCM, and so on and so forth. And then extensibility framework that allows us to further enhance and extend these out-of-the-box accelerators and process apps, so you can make changes to it and then apply those changes when new releases come out. On the intelligence side, there was a lot, as I mentioned, about Gen AI, and we announced sort of a Gen AI-powered digital assistant. We call it Generative AI Assistant. And then built on top of that, there was a lot of interesting news on the clinical digital assistant. I'll touch base on that very quickly, shortly. And then on the process side, we combined with the AI services to launch our intelligent doc processing that allows you to ingest various types of electronic document, whether it's ID cards, passports, invoices, receipts, use the OCR function, use intelligence to look at the document, understanding the document, and then using process to orchestrate how that information becomes part of a process, and then ultimately integrate that in the system of record. On observability, as Nathan will talk about with RP as well, we brought together all pieces of our automation strategy together for you to get a complete view, both from an operational perspective as well as from a business perspective, on what's going on across your enterprise with processes that are traversing all these different pieces, whether it's RPA, whether it's integration, whether it's process, whether it's B2B files, so on and so forth. That's sort of a key part of it. On Monday, we announced the clinical digital assistant, and it has just picked up great. This is obviously something that we use the basis of our automation strategy, our digital assistant process and integration, to come up with a pre-packaged solution for the for the healthcare industry, focused on clinicians, primarily on physicians. And as it's gotten great buzz, I'll quickly share what is the clinical digital assistant. It basically is a manifestation of all the components we have to create a very specific assistant for physicians. It's multimodal, voice first, and mobile. So unlike what you've seen with chat, if you like, or digital assistant in the past where you usually use chat type of sessions. This is basically fully multimodal, where you can talk to it, you can touch it, you have gestures, you can get speech back. And it basically has the following functions. So a clinical assistant that gives physicians the easy capability to ask questions about the patient, or what we call patient chart review, take action, be able to participate in the conversation, listen into a patient-doctor conversation, and auto-generate and automate all their documentation, ordering medication, without the doctor ever having gone to a computer. So you can have face-to-face, the doctor can have face-to-face communication with the patient, and if they want to dictate, go from there. So it's been a fantastic CloudWorld and health conference. Thank you, Jürgen, for giving me 5 minutes. Thanks, Jürgen.
For the live update from CloudWorld. So we have another special guest here at the CloudWorld conference show. Next to me is Rashan from our engineering team. So Rashan, thank you and welcome to the show.
Yep, thank you for having me. As Suhas mentioned, yeah, this has been very exciting. CloudWorld. I'm excited about the features that my team has built, other teams also, and what you're going to hear from Neil and Nathan. I'm really excited to up and coming webcast sharing more features. Thank you.
So what was your favorite feature here at CloudWorld from your team? What do you think gets the most attraction?
Well, obviously, since I'm sitting next to Nathan, I have to be nice. RPA enablement has been great, but OIC project has been well received. And as we talk more and more about deployments, CI/CD, and how it's going to help with accelerators, I think I would say OIC project.
Excellent, thanks. And Anthony will come with you with the buzzer. So, and with us is Neil Kominski. Neil, welcome from Franconia, home.
So I'm having my own Oracle Cloud World here in my home office. It's very cloudy outside, but I'm ready to go. Shall I begin?
Let me give.
Oh, you've got some slides for us. Sorry, Jürgen.
Give some brief updates. So, what are the key features in the current release of Integration 3?
You'll see them in a few minutes, Jürgen.
Okay, so
I have to have some Spannung.
Okay, so quick housekeeping. Please ask your questions via the Q&A tool, and the session is live here from Oracle CloudWorld. At the end of the webcast, we will answer all your questions from the Q&A, and slides and an on-demand webcast are published at Oracle Video Hub. In the chat, we will post the announcements, and please complete the feedback at the end of the webcast. As we talk about product directions, please pay attention to the safe harbor statement. So you already got the key announcements from Suhas and Rashan, so thank you very much. And Neil will give you some more details. We continue our success webcast series with Box Fusion, talking about multiple implementations on the CX side and how to connect them. The webcast will take place October 11th. If you would like to try Oracle integration, the latest and best release, you can get a free trial at oracle.com/tryit. And please make use of the documentation and the live labs from Nathan's teams. Those are really excellent labs to get started with Oracle Integration 3. If you would like to work with a partner who implemented successful Oracle integration, you can look them up at Partner Finder. And at Cloud Marketplace, you can find more adapters, also from third party. And we will talk a little bit about it. There's a new rapid adapter builder kit to let you build and publish your own adapters in the Cloud Marketplace. For further questions, please collaborate, network, and share your thoughts at Cloud Customer Connect. And today's webcast is live. It is recorded and will be published at Oracle Video Hub. For all information, please subscribe to our quarterly newsletter. With that short introduction, over to you, Neil.
Again, just emphasizing the fact that OIC is part of the OCI services ecosystem, so to speak. So that's a huge differentiating factor between ourselves and the competition. The fact that you can easily uptake these services from OCI to solve your business problems. We're making it even easier to do that with the native actions that we'll be talking about a bit later. But as you see, the machine learning and AI is emphasized here. And going forward, and this is really strategic for us, is leveraging such functionality explicitly, as Sue has mentioned, in the intelligent document processing. Like, for example, in an HCM onboarding use case, you know, taking a picture of a driver's license and taking a picture or uploading a picture of some form of identification for a new employee, working out what that is. Is it a passport? Is it a visa? Is it a driver's license? And pulling the salient information out of that and storing all of that in an enterprise system of record. So that's kind of the explicit use, but we've also got the implicit use within the platform itself. So AI-driven functionality within the OIC design time as well, making it even easier for you as OIC developers to create your integrations. So the highlights of the two previous releases here, to just give you an overview of what came in 04 and 06. So I won't go through all of these, but the main things here is, okay, OIC events was released. The first release of that, the Fusion Applications Event Monitor, being able to see the Fusion events that you are subscribing to from your integrations. We also see here the native action for OCI functions. So within the canvas, very easy for you within your orchestration flow to actually invoke a function to execute some business logic. So with 2308, now just going through these, the configurable OIC idle session timeout. Now this is something that people say, yeah, what is this useful for? Well, if you want OIC to log you out very quickly, then you can say 15 minutes. If you want to have it longer, you can put us up to 60 minutes. So it's just useful. It's just something that you can avail of under your settings screen there. And now let's get into the OCI object storage. So this, you see here how I can pull this across, and you say create a bucket. And then you say which resource do you want to manage. So if I'm managing buckets, this is what I can do: create bucket, list bucket, delete bucket. If I'm managing objects, you will see here I can upload objects, download objects, delete objects, etc. So that's just kind of giving you a quick view of that. Now let's go back to the demo that I have prepared here. So we're going back to this object storage demo here, and I'm going to run this guy here. And as I say, the use case here is pulling in those invoices from FTP and pushing them to object storage.
That's 60.
Okay, so we're going here and I do run. And as you can see here, let's look at the buckets that we have here. And the new bucket has been created here for today's date. And within that new bucket, I have the first invoice in there, and the other invoices will be joining shortly. Okay, so just giving you an idea how easy it is now to, there's the 4 invoices that we have. So how easy it is to integrate with object storage from OIC through these native actions. So just going back to that, we have native actions currently for functions, we have native actions for object storage, and we're planning other native actions. So we hope to, like with every release, have something new for you in that space. So now I'm going back to the slides. And here is also something very nice in 2308. An improved adapter endpoint configuration wizard. Like the look and feel has improved here immensely. For those folks who remember, like in 2306 and so on, we had the train control. Now we no longer have this train control. Now the train control made it somewhat cluttered here, but now we've got much more. Yeah, it's much easier to work with this. You see all of what has to be done, and it's just simply continue go back functionality that we have here. Another new feature of 2308 is support for XSL copy of in the mapper. So the copy of makes it very easy to copy from source to target, you know, when the structure is still the same. So instead of having to map each and every attribute, you can just map at the top level, and that copy of takes care of the rest of that. Now, another interesting new feature here is changing the trace level for a single integration. Now, this is very interesting when, for example, I've got my integration running and it throws an error and it has been deployed in production mode. In other words, trace has been sent to production, and I'm not getting enough information or enough salient information to work out what the actual error is. Now, when I click on the resubmit, I'll be able to put the logging, for example, to debug. This, of course, makes it much easier then to find the actual problem. So this is a neat feature that is released as part of the 2308 release. So that's changing the trace level for a single integration. So I'm not going to go show that because of the fact I'm cognizant of the time here. So now another interesting new feature introduced in 2308 is the observability menu for OIC events. Now, OIC events, we've seen them already, and I'll just go in and start showing this now. You will see here under design, I can create my events here. I've got new container event, new order, new employee, etc., etc. And of course, it's very easy for me to actually kind of publish events. You can say here, for example, here's a publish event that we have. Just have a look at this here. We have a new action, which is kind of publish, and you just specify which event you want to publish. And of course, with subscribe, we've got the new pattern here, the integrated pattern event, where you actually specify there. Let's have just a quick look that you see this, that you see which event you can subscribe to. So here you can see there, and you can see all of the events listed here. Okay, very simple to actually do this pub sub. So if I'm in here and I just discard that guy, going in here, and I can go in and I'll publish this guy first. So let's do a pub and let's do run. And we're going to run this guy here, and we have, okay, now it's looking for an XML payload, so I won't be doing that one. So here's demo sub, for example, and demo pub. I should have some other ones there here. I didn't realize that that was actually with the other payload. But just main thing I wanted to show you was in the observability was the actual subscriptions, that you can actually see which integrations are subscribing to which events. And of course, this is extremely useful here. And you see retained events are events that have not yet been picked up by the subscriber, i.e. by the integration. So this is a great new feature introduced in 2308, giving me that sort of insight into my events and the integration subscribing to them. Okay. Another small but fine feature here is a warning on upcoming certificate expiration. So when you go into the notifications tab in OIC, you will actually see the ability now to check that box there to get alerts about expiring and expired certificates. Now, this is very useful for customers because often it's the case, one uploads a certificate and, the expiry date is well in the future and one just forgets about it. But now you will be informed beforehand if there are any issues there. Another thing that's coming with 2308 or with OIC instances provisioned after 2308, like with 2308, that for the file server, you will also see the host name. So up to now, it was IP address and port. Now you're going to get host name, IP address, and port, just making it that much easier for you to work with the file server. Now, in respect of adapters, we have these new adapters here. The 3 adapters, and like the EPM adapter was one that was already there in Gen 2. Now it's available in OIC 3. But look at this, like Azure Event Grid, Google Cloud Pub Sub, and Zuora. The first 2 allude to our focus on multi-cloud, because that's what our customers have. Our customers, won't just have one cloud provider; they will have multiple cloud providers. And so the idea is to make it as easy as possible from OIC to interact with components running on those other clouds. Now, as you see, we always have new adapters every release, but we also have a plethora of adapter enhancements. Now, for some folks, you might say, oh, there mayn't be that interesting. But for example, for somebody developing with Snowflake, maybe the support for stored procedures is something they've been waiting for. And just again, all of these things are driven by customer requirements. So if you folks have any ideas or needs in this space, please contact us. And because all of this, as I say, is customer driven. Now, new recipes as well. Now, so we've got a plethora of new recipes. And one of the things to note about OIC now, the quickest integration that you can create is one based on a recipe. because, as I say, it's a template that you can actually just point to your source and target apps, for example, Salesforce and NetSuite, or in this case, Stripe and Salesforce, and it'll work. Now, of course, recipes are there as the starting point. You can, of course, go in there and use and abuse them to your heart's content. So you can change whatever you want within those recipes. But I think it's always a good idea, and we're making it even easier for you to filter on these recipes. So if you do have particular use cases you need to implement, go in there, check out, maybe there is already a recipe that does maybe not all of the work, but some of the work, which makes your life that bit easier, Now, one of the things that I think Suhas alluded to as well were accelerators. So what's the difference between an accelerator and a recipe? Like the recipe is something like, okay, use it, do what you want with this, use it as a demo, just use it as the basis for your development. Whereas an accelerator is more like a black box solution. So an accelerator to, for example, between Shopify and Shopify and NetSuite, keeping product inventory in sync, orders being pushed from Shopify to NetSuite. So you could well imagine there could be a plethora of integrations that are required between those two apps, your front-end shop and your ERP. And this accelerator acts as a black box. So it'll be, just think of a project. Rajan mentioned projects and how important they are to us, but imagine a project containing all of those integration use cases implemented for you. Now, the idea with the accelerator is it's a black box that you can just point to your Shopify and point to your NetSuite in my example here, and it'll work for you. But going a bit further on these accelerators is, okay, they are, as I say here, they are based in OIC projects, but the whole idea here is it's a single pane of interaction that the project is giving you that allow you to configure these accelerators, like point them to your Shopify and your NetSuite, but also to extend them. So it is a black box, but we're allowing you to, for example, you see this here, this extension group. So you're getting the ability to extend these accelerators to suit your particular needs. Now, another thing about this here is those extensions that you create are upgrade safe. So we see it's a totally different ball game to the recipes. Here you're getting an out-of-the-box solution. Those from SOA Suite days might be thinking of AIA and the PIPs that we released many years ago, but it's the same sort of idea here. It's a black box that you can use, plug and play, but you can also extend, and those extensions are upgrades safe. So that means there will be multi-version support. So if you look at this way, we will have the accelerator producer who is developing the accelerator, who's kind of staging it, making sure it does what it does, and publishes it, releasing it to to the community whatsoever or wherever. And then the consumer, which could be you, the customer, who installs and configures the accelerator, extends that accelerator to suit your needs. And because of this is based on projects, it's very, very easy to deploy that accelerator, observe it within the context of the project. And of course, after a certain amount of time, there may be a new release of that or a new version of that accelerator, which you can uptake. And again, we talk about your extensions being upgrade safe, then those extensions will be merged. Okay. So quick look at process automation new features from 2308. Now, I know like OPA, I must say, has improved by leaps and bounds, like since it was first released, and now we see there's loads of exciting new functionality coming within OPA. And if we look here, the 2308 new features, one of them was the inclusion of the inline sub-process. So the inline sub-process, as you can see here, contains an awful lot of steps, but I can collapse that, and it's just called the legal sub-process, as you can see the name here below. And the nice thing about that, it makes my diagrams, of course, or my models an awful lot more readable. And I can actually add, for example, boundary actions on this, so that after a certain amount of time, if this legal team haven't attended to this, it can be escalated up the chain. The upload form. Now, the upload form to system of record. So this is very, very interesting. Like if you could think of say I've got an example here with a vacation form. So somebody's filling in a vacation form in process automation, and we want to upload that form to an enterprise system of record, for example, HCM. Now, we make it very, very easy to do that now within OPA, or process automation. So it's another excellent feature that we have here. And of course here, the alter flow, to manually intervene to alter the flow of process instance. So this allows me very easily in the process workspace to go in, and once I have the permissions, of course, I need the manage permissions to be able to do this. But if I have the managed permissions for this process, I can go in and alter the flow. So if we go back to our picture here, for example, it's been escalated to number 1, and I don't want number 1 involved in this. What I can actually do is alter the flow and take it away from here and push it to here, or push it to wherever I want in the model. And naturally enough, within this alter flow, I can change the payload. So it's not just altering the flow, but it's altering the flow. And if required, from a business perspective, you can go in and change the payload. Another cool new feature within process is the operational analytics. So this is really excellent insights that we're getting there. You know, the average time to complete, total instances by process, and so on. And you can, of course, have this aggregated view and then drill down from that into the individual process instances. Now, we've heard quite a bit about CloudWorld, and one of the things that I'd like to talk about here, or I see, Madhav, are you online? Madhav, can you hear me?
Yes, Neil, I'm here.
So Madhav, we went through this slide today, but how about, like, you've also seen this slide from Suhas here, but one of the things that I'm really interested in here is the rapid adapter builder. Now, Madhav will go through the ins and outs of it, but just to give you folks a bit of a background to this. Many of you, like, I get questions from customers like, do you have an adapter for this app? Do you have an adapter for the other app? And so on. And sometimes we have a plethora of adapters, but we don't have them for all of those apps. And I'd be saying to the customer, just go read the REST API documentation for that, and then use the OIC REST adapter. But they would say, listen, I've got many developers, and if all of them have to spend time reading the REST API documentation, it'll increase the workload immensely. So the idea here is to be able to create your own adapters very quickly. Now, we see this probably as a great play for Oracle partners, creating such adapters and then making them available on the marketplace, but it's also available, of course, to customers. So Madhav, do you just want to walk us through this slide?
Sure. So the rapid adapter input will be the Postman collection currently, and the users can prepare their Postman collection in such a way how they want it to appear their adapter wizard, and then that can be provided as an input to the Visual Studio extension. So we are using VS Code as a IDE, and that will take us to create the adapter, the pre-built adapter by the customers or partners, and once the Postman collection has been given an input to the VS Code extension, and that will help us to create a document, JSON-based document called ADD, adapter definition document. In the ADD, you can update according to your requirement. For example, you want to update few security policies that is more than the one which it has automatically created, and that you can amend the security policies, or you want to add few more actions, or you want to change some flows or test connection details, or how the connection to be appeared. All the details that can be amended in the ADD, and you can just click register an adapter, and it will go ahead and update it in our skill store.
So that's great. Thanks very much for that, Madhav. So you see, guys, it's very, very exciting what's happening. Like the 2308 is is a great release. 23.10 will be upon us very, very soon. And you've got an update today about the amazing things that we're working on from CloudWorld there.
Next over to Nathan. Nathan, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Jürgen. How are you doing? Good morning to everybody out there. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
So it's early morning for you.
It's not that early.
But you're brave enough to do a live demo, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. What else?
Cool. Kick it off.
All right. So a couple slides first. So welcome everybody. And this here. All right. So as the guys mentioned, we're just back from Oracle CloudWorld, where we shared progress on our robotic process automation offering that we're delivering. And we frankly got some tremendous response and interest from both our customers and our partners. So I want to take a moment to share a quick highlight of that. And so let's start by setting the context of how RPA fits within our portfolio, and more importantly, how we believe RPA will be valuable for our customers. So briefly, we're positioning RPA as yet another tool within our automation toolbox. We already have a very complete automation platform, including application integration to connect systems of record and data, process automation to engage employees through tasks and workflows, decision services, to manage rules and policies, AI services such as document understanding, B2B and file server, analytics, and of course, user experiences, including Visual Builder and our digital assistant. So in addition to that, we're adding RPA as another option, another tool to help our customers successfully automate end-to-end business processes for those use cases where the applications that they're trying to automate either don't have APIs or it's temporarily not convenient to access those APIs. Something else that we see with customers who already have an RPA practice is that these RPA initiatives tend to be siloed. So for instance, it's not really uncommon to find application integration and process automation in one team and an RPA Center of Excellence team somewhere else. So this, of course, leads to some challenges such as lack of governance across automation initiatives. There's no centralized lifecycle management or observability. And of course, no sharing of resources across those teams who are essentially trying to achieve the same objective, that is to automate end-to-end business processes. So our objectives for RPA are to further round out our automation portfolio and thereby eliminate the need for customers to go elsewhere for these capabilities. And then second is to eliminate these automation silos by providing RPA as a first-class citizen within a complete automation ecosystem. And so enough of the slides. What I'd like to do now is just go ahead and do a demo. I'll show you what this actually looks like. Let me move this thing here. Okay. All right, so on the left-hand side here, we have Oracle integration. On the right-hand side, we have a Fusion app, so specifically ERP Cloud. And what we want to do is we want to create a project whereby we're going to automate one of our purchase order business processes. So I've already created that project. Hopefully you're already using projects. Projects is a great place. And today when you use projects, you'll see all of your integration assets within the projects. But going forward, we're thinking of projects as more of a solution-focused space to unify the composition, the lifecycle management, and the observability across all of our various automation tools. So once we release RPA, RPA will also be a first-class citizen of project. And then over time, you'll see tasks and workflows and decision services, all of our automation tools becoming part of the project, giving you that solution-focused space. So in here, we see all of our integration components and our RPA components. One of the first things we do, of course, when we're working on an integration is we create a connection. And so we have the same concept in RPA. I've already created a connection here. And again, what this allows us to do is it allows us to externalize the endpoint and the credentials for the application that we're going to connect to. A little bit different from application integration is we're not using these connections for our application adapters that might connect to Salesforce or HCM or other applications like that. We're using this connection information to drive the user interface, as RPA wants to do, to drive that user interface to find which URL we're going to connect to and which credentials we're going to use when we connect to that. But other than that, it's exactly the same concept. So let's start by creating an RPA flow. And let's say as part of this process automation that we want to, well, just as it says there, we want to get a supplier name from a purchase order. And for any number of reasons, we want to do this using RPA. So we'll create the flow. And when we open this flow, what we'll see here is a canvas that looks very similar to integration. And we want to make it such that if you know how to use integration, the same exact concepts apply to RPA flow. So if you know how to use one, you automatically know how to use the other. And it's the case for any of these automation components, we need to define a user interface. In other words, what are the inputs? And the inputs here are going to be the PO number. So we'll pass this robot a purchase order number, and we'll expect the robot to return to us a supplier name. Oops. Yep, there we go. Now, we need to now teach the robot how to interact with this application. And of course, the first step is going to be, of course, opening a browser page and navigating to a particular URL. We could, of course, type the URL in here, but that would tightly bind that URL to this code. What would be a better practice is to use the connection that we have and simply drag and drop the URL field from that connection over here. And again, what this does is this externalizes for us that connection so that if we move this robot from test to production, I don't have to come back in here and change the code. Of course, the first step in using this application is we have to log in. I could go ahead and use our low-code activities, for instance, to enter some text for the username and enter some more text for the password, and then do this click element. But what we want to do is we want to move to some more intent-based activities. And so what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to log in. And so we provide an explicit login activity. Over time, we'll provide all different types of intent-based activities for different types of forms, different types of tables, and we'll allow customers to go ahead and create their own intent-based activities as well. So now that I'm in this login activity, I need to configure it. Take the username, of course, from the connection that we defined, as well as the password. And now we need to teach the robot where it is these usernames and passwords need to go. And so for that, we use our targeting tool. And so we'll select the browser tab that we want, which is the sign-on page. And as you can see, as we move the cursor around, we're selecting the various fields. And we want the username field here. We'll do the exact same thing for our password field. And finally, for whatever this submit target is, it's going to be the sign-in button, and we'll use that there. So we have our login activity created, and as you can see, instead of having a bunch of fine-grained activities in here, we have this one nice intent-based activity just to hold all the login information. So I'm going to go ahead and log into Fusion Apps because we're kind of at that point. And we could go ahead and continue to build out this flow using our low-code activities. That would get kind of tedious. So what we want to do is we want to use a recorder. Now, our recorder, most recorders in RPA, what you'll notice is you have to start the recorder and you have to start from scratch. With our recorder, you can start pretty much anywhere within the flow. So if you already have a flow that's kind of, you start it like we have here, I can start recording directly from there. If I wanted to go ahead and insert some things, some activities, I could do that easily as well. So we'll start a recorder from the login. I'm going to say that we want to target this particular page, and we'll provide some instructions on how to start using our recorder. Now, our recorder is very similar to most, and that is that I just simply use the application as I normally would. The big difference with our recorder is instead of just going ahead and using the application and at the end just having the recorder spit out all the code, we're going to engage the developer in this recording process so that they can provide us some hints to make it easier for us to generate the code that they really want. And we'll see that here in a second. So in this case here, we're going to say we're going to generate a new activity called click procurement. We provide some recommended actions given the fact that we've clicked on an anchor link, and we'll give you an option to say, once we record this step, do you actually want to execute it on the browser or do you not want to do that? In this case here, we do want to do that. So we'll click save, and we'll see that we've recorded our step over here, and we've now advanced to the procurement page. We'll do the same thing here for click on purchase orders. We'll save that. We'll give ERP Cloud a little bit of time to bring up the next menu items. And there we are. And now we'll click on this task button over here to bring up a menu item of different things that we can do here. And we'll click on this here to manage orders, to go ahead and manage our orders. And now we'll bring up our order management page. So at this point in time, we want to go ahead and enter an order number. And so we can enter this order number, US 165969. We want to use this as a part of our recording. And again, in most traditional recorders, we're going to teach the robot to go look for this particular purchase order number. That's probably not what we want, right? What we really want is we want to teach the robot to go look for the purchase order number that's passed in as part of the input. Yes, we will use this as a recording option, and we also use this as a potential test value later on when we're testing our robot. So we'll go ahead and save that, and we'll now click our search button, and we'll save that. And again, all along, we're generating the code over here. And now we need to go ahead and copy the supplier name. So we'll click here. Now you see here, the recommended action is to click the element. That's probably not what we want. What we really want to do is we want to get the text from that. We also see up here that the name is a little bit mangled. So we'll just change this to say get supplier name. And we don't want to just get the text, but we want to get the text and do something specific with that. And that is to put that in the supplier name output field. So we can now save this, and we can stop our recording, and our recording is done. This recording is complete. This can be executed in a test or production environment. We don't have to go back through this code and change things like, well, let's go ahead and parameterize all the literal values that we did, or let's go ahead and make sure that we clicked on an element that it didn't do a click, that it actually did a get text. We could, of course, if we wanted to, drill down into each one of these elements and see all of the details, what the targeting is, the fact that we actually are using the input, the PO number for the input here. We provide validation for each one of these steps. So automatically, as part of this recording, we'll create validation steps to ensure that before we actually enter that order number, that we're on the right page, we actually have access to the order number field. And we also generate a nice user-friendly message. So instead of, if this robot were to fail, instead of getting some cryptic message like XPath something, 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 we'll actually send to you a really nice user-friendly message saying, hey, we just couldn't find the order text. You could, of course, change this if you want. But none of this is necessary because, again, everything is all done here, ready to go. Another nice thing that we provide is that we actually save all of the targets themselves. So let's just say that as part of this use case, that we needed to click on the search button multiple times. Each time that you click on that search button, the first time we'll actually record that as a target, but each subsequent time, what we'll do is we'll say, you know what, you've already clicked on this button. Would you like to simply just reuse that target? And if you do that, what it does is that all of those clicks on that search button will all be kind of using the exact same target, meaning that, let's say that down the road, this search button moves, or for whatever reason, this search button is no longer working for us. Instead of us having to look through all of the code, finding all of those different places where I use the search button and changing each one of those, I can simply come to this global list of targets here, change the target, and automatically fix the code everywhere. So we're done with our robot flow. So let's go ahead and save that. Now, I won't go into a lot of detail about how we execute these, but we have this notion of environment groups. So in this case here, we've created an environment group called finance team. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to segment the physical virtual machines that are going to run these robots into various teams. So for instance, I could have a finance team, an HR team, and each one of those teams will ensure that the computing resources that they need and want are reserved for them and secure to them. So in this case here, what I can do is I say I just want to add an environment group for this robot, and I'll select my finance team. And now we can go ahead and activate this robot. And we'll put this into debug mode and activate it. Now, we don't really allow you to call the robots directly. That may seem like an intuitive thing to do, but it's really not a great practice. And the reason is because oftentimes RPA is used kind of as a tactical or a temporary type of automation strategy. And so if I bind all of my process flows and my applications, if I bind all of those directly to the robot, and then later on, we want more robustness, or we want to have more scalability in that particular function, we would want to change that to an API. We now need to go change all of our downstream applications to move from the robot to the API. So instead, what we're doing is we're going to make it very easy for you to bring those robots into an integration. And so let's say that we have an integration called get supplier name. And I've created a schedule integration just to make it simple for us. Of course, within the integration, we have access to all of the various activities, the application adapters that we'd normally have in integration. One of the new things that we have now here is an activity called Robot Flow. And I can select that and I can say, let's call this Get Supplier Name. And just like you're using any kind of adapter, we're going to go ahead and go out and look for business objects or whatever it is that the adapter is working against. In this case here, we're working against RPA robots. And so we'll go out and discover the RPA robots that are part of this project. We'll select that. We'll get a quick summary here. And then again, just like any other kind of invoke, what we'll do is we'll create a invoke activity and we'll create a map. I can go into the mapper and I can start mapping the data to my, for instance, purchase order number. So in this case here, we're just going to hard code this because we don't really have we have this as a scheduled integration. So we'll just use the same 165.969. That's our sample data. We have our map. And now we have our integration that's going to invoke that RPA flow exactly the same way as it would invoke any one of our application adapters. Now, the other nice thing about putting these robots inside the integration is it allows me the opportunity to create hybrid integration. So an integration that can both invoke robots as well as APIs. So I don't have any other connections set up here, but let's just do something simple. Let's just say that we want to take the result and put it in a logger. And so we'll get a logger configuration. We can come over here to our get supplier name response, and we can grab our supplier name and drag and drop that over to there. So one last thing we need to do, of course, is to configure our business identifier, and we'll just use the start time to differentiate this instance from other instances. And we now have our integration completed. So let me go ahead and activate this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this. And once it's activated, I'm going to go ahead and run it. And we'll see our robot come up here. And then we'll take a little bit of look at the at our observability. But while that's happening, maybe it's a good time to grab some questions, Jürgen.
Yep, there are a couple of questions, Nathan. First of the question is, when is it going to be available?
Yeah, so we are already starting an early adopter program, starting to onboard both customers and partners. And we're starting to kind of triage those early adopter requests to find out what makes sense for us and what makes sense for our customers. We expect to start onboarding our first customers probably towards the end of the year, the first part of next year.
Cool. If partners want to participate in the beta program, please complete the webcast survey that you would like to participate, write it in the feedback form, and we will reach out to you. Next question is from Hanunan. He would like to know if there are in HCM use cases for RPA.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are. One of our early adopter customers absolutely has a use case for RPA. What they want to do is they want to programmatically update a certain employee evaluation criteria. Apparently, there's no API to do that. And so they want to be able to do a bulk update of those. One of the nice things about the way that we're seamlessly integrating both integration and RPA is that oftentimes in RPA world, you'll process a file of input data and we'll have the robots themselves process that file. That may or may not be the best practice, right? In our case, you could do that if you wanted to, but the other thing you could do is integration already has some fairly extensive file processing capabilities. So for instance, we could go ahead and say that we're going to receive an event from our file server. We're going to bring in that file, maybe a CSV file of employees and all of the ratings that they need to get updated. And then we're going to use the stage file to iterate over that file, each row, and then for each row, we'll ultimately end up calling our robots. And so, yes, there's definitely use cases within HCM.
So nice comment from Namit, cool demo on RPA. Congratulations, Nathan. And next question from Gary is any information about the pricing?
Yeah, so we haven't finalized our pricing, but it will definitely be some sort of consumption-based pricing model. It's very likely to be exactly what we use for integration. But again, don't hold me to that. But that's our current thinking, which, by the way, will make this RPA offering extremely cost-effective.
Okay. And Arvin would like to know, compared to other
RPA tools like Automation Anywhere and UiPath, is the automation integrated with machine learning models and AI?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny thing. This is one of the problems when talking with RPA is because the RPA vendors have totally disrupted our language around automation. Oftentimes when RPA vendors talk about machine learning and computer vision and AI and all of this, what they're often talking about are things like document, what we would call in our world is document understanding. So OCR and intelligent document recognition. So they have kind of combined those capabilities underneath the umbrella term of RPA. Certainly, we have those capabilities within our portfolio. When we talk about RPA, we're strictly talking about the technology that's using the user interface to perform the integration. Certainly, because we already have a much more complete automation portfolio, including the ability to engage human beings through tasks, the ability to leverage AI services. We can certainly incorporate those as part of your overall automation flow. It just won't be technically handled by the RPA. From a functional standpoint, we're doing the exact same thing. In fact, we're probably actually doing it quite a bit better because of the fact that we're actually leveraging each one of those tools more appropriately.
Okay. Ritesh would like to know if you can use smart recordings to test functionalities of quarterly patches, so basically do testing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get this question all the time. It's not something we really thought about. Don't really see any reason why not. So we're getting questions about using this both for testing. So we oftentimes think about it from a functional standpoint, using automation and RPA for functional use cases. But we get a lot of questions about for testing, and we also get a lot of questions about setup. So apparently it's a fairly extensive process to move, for instance, Fusion apps from test to production. There's an awful lot of configuration changes that need to be done. And a lot of customers are talking to us about, hey, wouldn't it be great if we can actually use RPA to automate those configuration changes? So absolutely.
Next question is from Thibaut. He would like to know if RPA only works with web applications or also with desktop applications and spreadsheets.
Yep, great question. So our initial January release will only work with web-based applications and file-based patterns. So we'll definitely be able to work with files like CSV files, Excel files, and the such. And of course, those files would be, based on the use case, we'll either say you should use those files directly within the robot, or maybe it's more appropriate to use those files within the integration flow. Once we get our first release out, we will start to broaden the various applications that we support. So Windows-based applications, Citrix-based applications, Halapi green screen applications, and such.
Okay, and will it support also unattended flows?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have a quick demo here. How much time do we have? Yeah, we have a little bit of time. I have a quick demo here where we're actually using RPA as part of, so we have unattended robots, which are, I assume that you said attended robots, yeah? Or did you say unattended?
Both attended and unattended.
Yeah, so unattended is exactly what we just saw, right? That is the robot kind of in service of the enterprise. It's running in the data center, and its real purpose is to act as a proxy to an API. Attended robots, however, are robots that are actually running on my desktop, right? And really serving as a personal productivity tool. A lot of the RPA vendors will provide a forms builder where you can build out a form to say, here's the information that I want to fill out for my particular robot request, such as the purchase order number and such. And then when you submit that form, it'll go ahead and execute that robot on the desktop. We're actually taking a bit of a different approach, and what we think is going to be a much more superior approach. And that is instead of actually building out individual forms, is to leverage our digital assistant. And so that makes it such that with that digital assistant, you could ask for a request. Now, maybe the request goes back as digital assistants do today. It makes some API calls and it delivers the results in the digital assistant, as you saw Grant showing you there. Or it could also be the case that the digital assistant is programmed to say that given a particular request, instead of going back and presenting the results in the digital assistant, they're just going to run a robot on my desktop and present those results to me in the context of my desktop. So let's show an example of that.
Houston, for a family of 4, my budget is $600K.
So here we have our digital assistant that's that's running on my desktop. I ask it for a question to say, hey, show me some homes. And what it'll do is it'll now, instead of just bring me back a list of homes, it'll actually now go out and show me the homes.
Homes for one in Seattle with a view. Budget is 500K.
So it'll go ahead and show me those homes in the context of the application that I'm using. So absolutely, we have support for both attended and unattended robots.
So excellent presentation. So thanks for the nice live demos. To wrap up the call, we have resources available for you as a partner. Make use of them. Please visit our website and make use of the documentation. As part of the documentation, you can also access the live labs. And if you want to try Oracle Integration Cloud, you can get a free trial and then proceed with the live labs. For more information, please visit our team blog, blogs.oracle.com/integration. I would also highlight Neil's blog. There is plenty of information, and all resources are published in the quarterly newsletter. So with that, we come to the Q&A. Let's take a few questions. So Neil, there was several times a question about VBCS and if it is now available and if the customers can upgrade now to Integration 3.
Okay, so like VBCS is part and parcel of OIC 3 for a couple of releases now. What we're looking at here is the automatic upgrade of VB apps from the Gen 2 environment to OIC 3. That is something that we will see in October release. So in the October release, that will be possible.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And the question for Nathan. Kumar would like to know if you can do also screen scraping with the release of RPA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the primary use case here for RPA. For our first release, we're going to be supporting integrating with web-based applications and as well as file-based integration patterns. And then over time, we'll continue to add additional support for Windows-based applications, Citrix applications, Palopi green screen applications, and such.
Cool. And if you would like to be a participant in the early adopter program, please complete the survey question and we will reach out to you. So there are a couple of more questions. There is a question from Kumar. Is there planning to introduce feature to schedule the same integration multiple times with unique parameter values?
Yes. Now, I just want to say, like, there's one way of actually doing that quite easily. If you define or if you create your scheduled job in such a way that you say the scheduled job, the first step or the first thing it actually does is invoke an async integration that actually does the work. If you adapt that sort of a design, you can very easily have multiple instances of the same integration job executing very quickly because they can only execute one at a time, but they'll be executing very quickly because all they're doing is spinning off an async integration. So that would be a good pattern to use for that, you know.
Okay. Then there's a question from Sonali if there is a Splunk adapter available.
I think Madhav is writing.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, it's going to be available as part of 2312, probably.
Wonderful, thank you. And Ravi Pinto, thanks for answering many of those questions. Are there any of those you would like to highlight? Ravi, you're on mute. Okay.
Okay, I just see the question there from Georgi with the trace level for single integration change. How does it work? Well, as you know, like the error hospital is there for async or scheduled jobs that throw errors. And the way it actually works, it executes again from the start. So you will get the same payload executed through. So with this resubmit, you cannot resubmit with a payload change, but you resubmit from the very start with a different trace mode, for example, the debug trace mode, and that should help you find your issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the whole team. Thanks to Madhav. Thanks to also to Ravi for answering the question. With that, we conclude our special edition live from CloudWorld 2023 here in Las Vegas. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to the team. and make use of the integration resources for partners and customers.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. See you all again in December.
Thank you.